isolated reading of paragraph 143 of the petition, where the petitioners averred that the first respondent and his agents wrongly and deliberately entered wrong scores results for the underlisted 22 states, namely Abia, Adamawa, Akwa Ibom, Anambra, Bauchi, Bayelsa, Cross River Delta, Edo, Enugu, Gombe, Imo, Kaduna, Katsina, Kebbi, Niger, Oshun, Taraba states. Pleadings, they said, of party is not read in that isolated manner to get at a party's complaint. Pleadings must be read holistically to get at the complaint in issue. If that is done, as it should be done, the respondents would have come across where petitioners left no one in doubt that their complaint about the election is nationwide and not isolated to only some few states. That much is clear. First, from paragraph 107 of the petition, where petitioners averred that the petitioners shall give evidence to show that the election results as purportedly declared by first respondent in respect of each state of the Federation, including the Federal Capital Territory, the details of which are contained in the table below, and table was given, are wrong. Then they proceeded to list each of every state of the Federation. They also gave in the table wrong election figures declared by INEC for each state and FCT. Then in paragraph 147 of the same petition, they listed 60 different types of sets of documents they intended relying on to prove the said averment in paragraph 107 of the wrongness of the result declared by INEC for each state and the FCT, the presidential election. Among those documents listed by them are A, BVAS CTC reports, B, Forms EC8 series, then EC8A, EC8B, EC8C, EC8D, EC8DA, EC8E, that's certificate of return received by petitioners' agents at the election. C, summary of the total registered voters on units basis. D, summary of PVCs collected on unit basis. E, data and event logs from all BVA's machines used in the election. And F, PVC collation records. These documents were specifically listed at paragraphs 147.1, then 6, 36, 37, 56, and 57 of the petition. These are the same averments to documents respondents are asserting were not pleaded by the petitioners and so irrelevant and inadmissible in evidence. They are indeed wrong. This ambit of the objection of respondents is therefore overruled and rejected. Then objection made by only the third respondent. The next set of objections to documents tendered by the petitioners were raised by only third respondent. I now proceed to consider them. Admissibility of video clips. Arguments were advanced there on, okay. Okay. Yes. So we said, I'm of the opinion that the contention is also misconceived, especially when regard is had to paragraphs 1, A, B, E, F, G of the certificate of authentication of the said video clips made by PW19 Dr. Ter. The authentication required by Section 84 of the Evidence Act in the circumstances the video clips in issue were made is statements assuring the court that they are in exact state, same state they were in the internet from where Dr. Ter, PW19, downloaded them to his laptop computer and subsequently to his flash drives before bringing them to this court. That much is evident in the contents of Dr. Ter's certificate in XB PAF 4B above. For the same reason, the argument of Dr. Ter is not the argument that Dr. Ter is not in position to answer questions on the said clips, and so his evidence on them is hearsay, is also non sequitur. Then there is also the issue of dumping of documents on court as ground for admissibility. With this one. Okay, that's part of the issue which will be considered deeply. Okay, you see, that is it. This is, okay. Some of them are listed. The simple and straightforward answer to this argument is that the issue of dumping of documents on court, which expression in any case suggests that the documents so dumped are already in evidence before the court, only goes to the weight to be attached to the documents by the court. On this reasoning, this ground of the objection is rejected and overruled. Then also there is allegation that some documents tendered were either made during pendency of this proceeding, I think we have seen that, and anticipation of it by interested parties. I think we've done a little consideration of this earlier. So we'll go to number 3. They said also that exhibits PBD, PBD1A, PBD1B, PBD1C, PBD1D, PBD1A, PBD2A, PBD3, and up to PBF4, tendered by the petitioners through PW27, Mike Nauru Eva, to show second respondent's non-qualification for the presidential election on grounds of his alleged conviction stroke fine in the United States of America, forgery of certificates and dual citizenship are irrelevant to the proceeding and so inadmissible in evidence, petitioners having not pleaded necessary facts in their petition to support them. This also was looked at by us, and okay, and I have already ruled while considering the preliminary objection of the respondents to the petition and replies of the petitioners that paragraph 146 of the petition, where the petitioners averred to non-qualification of second respondent for 2023 presidential election, was bereft of facts to sustain it. I also held that the fresh facts of second respondent's conviction / fine by a district court in Illinois in United States, alleged forgery of documents and dual citizenship, all of which petitioners only introduced for the first time in their replies, were incompetent. They ran foul of both paragraphs 4.1d and paragraph 16.1b are incompetent, liable to be struck out, and were indeed struck out. I'm also aware that we have just a few seconds ago ruled here in this judgment that evidence of PW27, through whom they say the documents SB now impeached by third respondent were brought in, is incompetent for non-compliance with paragraph 4.5b of the first schedule to the Electoral Act. Those rulings constitute issue estoppel, binding not only on the parties but on this court too, meaning further that this court cannot depart from them. See Francis Shano and Afri Bank, and also Lawal Daodo and Kadoso and Daniel and all that. Consequently, the objection of third respondent to the admissibility of this evidence earlier highlighted, the objection is hereby upheld, and the said documents are further ruled inadmissible and expunged from the records of this court. The summary of all the foregoing is that 1. The objection to the evidence adduced by PW12 witness Eguma Friday, PW13 Grace Timothy, PW14 Grace Ajabona. Okay. Well, he said all those ones we have mentioned and also recouched here, we say that the objection is upheld, and that evidence together with the documents, reports included, tendered by the same witnesses are hereby expunged from the records of this court. See, it's there. Secondly, the objection of respondents to exhibits PAH1, PAH2, PAH3, PAH4 made by Mr. Samuel Odunton, PW21, and exhibits PAR1A to F made by Mr. Hitler Wala, PW26, is also further upheld, and the said documents already held incompetent and inadmissible by our earlier rulings are again hereby pronounced inadmissible in evidence on this ground too. Then the third one now is the objection of third respondent to the admissibility of exhibits PBD, PBD1A, PBD1B, PBD1C, PBD1D, PBD1A, PBD2A, PBD3, PBD4, PBE1, up to PBF3, PBF4, tendered by PW 27, Mr. Mike Enaoroba, is also upheld, and the said documents are further ruled inadmissible and expunged from the records of this court. Save for these ones mentioned above, all other objections of the respondents to documents tendered by the petitioners are overruled. Well, at this level, I hand over, like my brother said, to my leader to continue with the judgment. Thank you.
I now consider the substantive matter, the substantive petition. I however wish to state that despite our conclusions above on the objections raised by respondents to documents tendered by the petitioners, I am still mandated to evaluate evidence adduced and consider merits of the petition. The only evidence I shall not revisit are exhibits PBD, PBD 1A, PBD 1C, 1B, 1C, 1D, 1 PBD 1A, PBD 2A. PBF 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4, relating to second respondent alleged non-qualification that were tendered by PW 7 at 27. Mr. Mike Enahoro Eba, the said documents in our view, being bereft of pleadings to sustain them as elaborately stated earlier in this judgment. Coming to the hearing, the petitioners called a total of 27 witnesses and closed their case on 24th June 2023. The respondents opened their respective